Sane, wow. It's amazing that it's been, how long we've known each other?
Early 2000.
Early 2000. And I just cannot believe how time flies. We are here today. And I'm so excited to have you on my podcast. You know, Sunday, there is a season that nobody ever warns us about. The season when everything you have worked for is finally in your hands. And something deep within you whispers, this is no longer it. Can you recognize that? That whisper is not failure to me. That whisper is the truth. I've always believed that real ambition does not always announce itself. Sometimes it looks like quiet choosing, a turning inwards, a decision to build life that feels honest, even when it looks like nothing the world expected. Today's guest is woven into one of the most sacred chapters of my life. 21 years ago, to be precise, Sane Mdlalose built the beginning of my marriage. And it's quite a profound one for me. And Sane, over the years, I've watched you choose yourself with quiet grace that I deeply admire. You are the kind of woman who no longer needs to prove who you are, because you simply just are. I have been looking forward to this conversation, and I've been looking forward to it for a long time. And I hope it gives everyone here who listens to it permission to exhale, permission to think, permission to choose, and permission to be brave enough to decide they are now going to live the life in their own terms, defined by what they really want to be. So welcome to my podcast, Thulisile. It's so wonderful to have you here, Sane. And before we go into this conversation, I'd like you to introduce yourself to my guest. Who is Sane?
Wow, that's a loaded question. But good day, everyone. And Julie, really, it's an honor to be here. And I think I'm always humbled by the extent to which people reflect on what they've seen me do. Because for me, it was just life, you know. But I think when you say, who am I? I am firstly a pastor's kid, a PK.
Wow.
And you know, being a PK, many wish they weren't a PK, but I think, you know, when you think about what life throws at you, you are born as a PK, and you are born as this child, like other children, into an environment where everyone expects you to suddenly, from day one, live the 10 Commandments. You don't want to do anything bad, you're not normal. You're just a person who does everything right. And so I think for many people, deliberately or undeliberately, society defines and says you should behave like this because your parents are 1, 2, 3. You should behave like this because you go to this school. And we were fortunate when we were born, there were no other children that were PK around us, so we were different. When one went overseas many years ago, I recall being the only Zulu-speaking child that I knew in California, so I didn't understand English, so it was okay. Coming back to South Africa, I was the only Zulu child who didn't really speak Zulu properly. Ngangrola, is Zulu sam, sasrol, you know? Mabesh. And then I was fortunate to go to a private school in '83, before Group Areas Act was actually open. So I was not like my fellow students. So for me, I think when you say, how did I choose me? it was actually by default. I was never like my environment. So I didn't actually have an option to be like those around me. I was just me, different and me.
Yeah.
But what my parents, I think, did well is, even as children of a pastor, children of an educator, what they did well was say to us, you make your choices in life, whatever they may be, they all have consequences, good and bad. So they allowed us to be our own people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That society defines you, but you make the choice to be or not be. And you follow the consequences. They wouldn't protect you from them. So, often we say a person is now old, they should make why are they doing this and not that. But the reality is, maybe the environment used to decide for them. You don't just wake up at 30, 40, 50 and start saying, I'm going to be like this. It starts from when you're small. Did you do what you were told to do when you went to the tuck shop to buy isinkwa, as an example?
Exactly.
Or did you buy sweets, From that early. So it doesn't suddenly happen one day. Yeah, so that's sort of me. I'm a third child of 4. And really fortunate to have had many siblings and a family that was connected. I think that's the word for that. So that's me.
Sane. And then I retraced the steps back to 2000, 2001, 2002. I met you at Unilever. You are a trailblazer even then. I think you walked into customer care, or was it category management at Unilever, and you were working with quite tough males in that environment. I remember Dave de Klerk, I remember Jason, and quite a number of them. And in walks this trailblazer, Usane, and we get told about you. And you are shaking things in customer management and category management. I want us to go back to that period, because I think for me, that's quite a significant period in your career and in your growth. And here we are as young black women, females, looking up to you and admiring the things that you are doing, shaking things up there in customer care. When you were leaving at that pace, from us it looked like you were chasing that life where you were already looking like you are very successful. Whose expectations were you driving?
It's an interesting one. If I take it back a few more years, although I grew up in this unique environment, if I could call it that, environment where you could choose, I still wanted normal society things, or what society defines as normal and success. So, yes, I wanted a corner office with a pot plant. I also was very much, my formative years or my late sort of young adult years were when being a woman CEO was a big deal. Oh. So I had this image of being a woman walking into a boardroom full of men, and they stand up not because I'm a woman, but because they respect me for what I am. Yes. So that's everything I wanted. By the time 2000 came, I had learned a few things in my career. I had walked into the food side of Unilever some years ago, or before that, and other companies. And I had, one, come into a space which was predominantly male, customer marketing, and middle-aged men. So there you are as a young person, middle-aged men. I also came into a space at that time where the very few people who that environment applauded found themselves questioning what they had done for the companies at the respective moments. So that framed my first realization that you can work hard in corporate, you can do what corporate wants you to do, but at some point, corporate has to make corporate decisions. And at that point, how are you going to respond? I had watched these people question their value, question their existence. And I thought to myself, I look to these people as amazing people. How could they even question? And then I realized I have a wish for myself to never be in that position, to never be in a position where I am questioning what corporate has to offer me. I am questioning whether the value I gave, was it right or wrong? Because corporate sometimes has to make decisions that have nothing to do with you. You interpret them as you, right? You interpret, oh, that means I'm not good enough, I'm not doing. And I learned through that experience that it wasn't actually whether those people had done right or wrong. It was just corporate needed to do what corporate needed to do. Therefore, as an individual, I always said, as Sane, you must always ask yourself, what does Sane need to do with what she has seen or been dealt with? What does Sane need to do? Not what does corporate expect Sane to do. It was a difficult thing, but learning from the experiences of others, very much that.
It's quite amazing that you were actually questioning yourself like that. I want to say, to speak to you from our perspective as young females. On the outside, you looked poised. You looked like you had it together. You were successful. And I want to emphasize that. You had walked into customer care and you were making a mark. And everybody was talking about Sane. I remember going into performance reviews, and I don't think I ever told you this. One of my managers said to me, you know, Thuli, you have something in you to offer, but you are too quiet. Maybe you should go and speak to Sane. Because Sane can teach you a thing or two about standing out. So you were successful to us. I want us to go into what that meant for you. What was the personal cost of what wasn't aligned on the inside? You are saying to me you changed the way that you were viewing things. It no longer became about what corporate, at the time it was Unilever, could do for you. It became about you. So what was the personal cost of that non-alignment?
There was a lot of personal cost. I realized at that stage that I'm actually an introvert. So when I entered the world of work, I realized that I actually didn't talk enough, but I didn't realize myself. I was fortunate that in the first sort of 5 years of my career, I had a variety of managers. And my managers saw things that I didn't see. And so I often used to say to people, I am what I am because of the people who were my managers. Because I think many of us think we have this certain power, but you won't see what you don't know, you know, or what's not obvious. So like many of you, I was quiet. Because for me, I was reflective. My personality is, give me information, let me think about it, I will come back. But corporate is, give me information, think now, and speak. So I had a manager that said to me when I first started working, she said, you know, people need to know you exist. Oh, really? You know? And in that, taught me how to do that in corporate. Okay? And they taught me how to think, and they would ask me questions to pull me out of my shell. So by the time I met you, I had learned that you need to speak what you are thinking. Because if you don't speak what you're thinking, people don't actually know. Then you're sitting there, but why did they decide that? And then the question becomes, did you say anything? Very much like voting, you know. You can complain about the political setup, but did you go to the voting booth? You know, kind of thing. But what was important is I was taught. I was taught how to show up in corporate. And I say this because I know that I did not create it by myself. When I was at that stage, the misalignment was I am not doing it enough because I'm still naturally me, introverted. I still love everyone else to say what they think and I take notes. That's my natural set. So every day I had to remind myself, I'm going to work, I need to talk. It was like a switch. But because I didn't think talking was good, because many talk and blow hot air, So I didn't want to be there. But now how do I, so I was still more reserved than, because I was scared of erring on the side that I don't recognize as an achievement, if I can put it that way. So that's basically, and that was constant. You learn sometimes you speak and someone didn't want to hear from you. So you learn over time that it's how you say what you say. And then you start learning from your environment, observing your environment. How do they respond? So I started understanding, and also I think it came from my childhood of being different from my environment. I found people responded to me in different ways, and often not how I thought you should respond to me. So by then it was just constant honing, and how your self-respect may be undermined by others. And how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? So, yeah, I was nowhere near arriving, but I've never had an arrival point when it comes to that specific issue. Because I think your environment changes so often. You can't arrive. You're constantly in flux.
Sure. And then there's always a moment where something cracks open and you can no longer go back to where you were. Now I want us to focus on that moment. What was the moment, Sane, that made you stop? And in that stopping, what did you have to release to even begin imagining the different way of living?
I think the first one, really the first big one, was recognizing that the definition of commitment, definition of loyalty that I have and how I perceive it is not how the corporate world perceives it. So you will work extended hours, you will not go home to your children, you will do all these things. But then when corporate has to make a choice, they just make it. And suddenly you could have a Section 189. And then I started realizing that these things are different and should be different. Not that they either is right or wrong. It's just different. Therefore, I must always have peace about my definition in whatever context. The other sort of aha moment was, I think, not only in terms of reciprocation or whatever, but understanding that there's a culture in organizations. And that culture makes the organization successful today. And it may appear as intolerant as whatever else, but it's just different. And the question becomes, as an individual, how comfortable are you in that culture? So when the culture of an organization aligns with your personal values, magic happens. It's a beautiful place. Often when people talk, oh, I love this company or I love that company, it's the same company that others hate. But you realize it's about the internal alignment of that environment. So I realized that cultures can be different, but as long as they can work together in a way that doesn't break you, they're perfectly fine. So those were the two things, realizing that the differences are good and they're okay. That was the aha moment. It wasn't about no longer about right or wrong. And that's when I started celebrating difference and appreciating difference. But it could still be misinterpreted in the corporate space. And if I think of many companies I've worked for and so forth, as my culture is not the right one, if that makes sense, my personal culture. But I also realized that when I try beyond what I think is reasonable to fit into a culture, if I can term it as fit in, or understand or try and be like that, I don't feel right. I look in the mirror and I'm questioning myself, I'm questioning a lot of things, and I don't like being uncomfortable. So to avoid that discomfort, I decided I need to choose me. So I can't confirm in a corporate space, if that's what we're supposed to say yes to, I can't say yes to if I don't feel right about it. And it becomes a lonely place when you're like that, because you forgo things. You forgo promotions, you forgo the club, you forgo whatever. But therein, I was able to draw on the strength of my having always been different.
Different, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know how it would have shown up if I had not always been different. You know what I mean? Because it takes strength. It takes comfort. Yeah.
Sane, you know, it's quite amazing that we saw you choosing yourself. And I must say that I admire that. I remember when you left Unilever, all of us were like, whoa. Why? She's flying, she's doing things, she's like making noise in a space where a lot of us were scared to even speak up. You leave that. And now I'm beginning to understand that that was the beginning of a journey where you were choosing yourself and you were allowing your difference to now define the next chapter of your life. What did you have to unlearn about success? And how did you navigate fear of slowing down so that you can then start the next chapter of your life?
I think for me it was very much about, because of what I had witnessed in terms of how corporates define loyalty, how we define loyalty, I understood that if you know what you're looking for, if you accept that it's just different but not right or wrong. For me, leaving a company was never about something went wrong. So we leave when we're unhappy. Yeah. We leave when we get a bad performance. Yeah. And I was like, but you don't have to wait for that. You need to know what you're looking to. When you go into a company teaches you things. But at the same time, you're bringing something. So what are you looking for? So 9 out of 10, my leaving actually had nothing to do with everything that people saw. It was more about what is it I need to learn? And if that learning was no longer in this corporate space, that particular corporate space, I need to find a corporate space where I can learn it. It was not about something went wrong, something happened. So I often have been unable to relate to people who want to leave when something has gone wrong. For me, you leave because you're going to learn something, or you leave because your circumstances need you to be in a different place, whatever that circumstance. It may be a domestic circumstance, whatever it is, but not because something went wrong.
Yo, that's a beautiful way of looking at things. Yeah. And if I'm hearing you very well, Sane, you also were living in search of alignment with your values. Yes. And that's a powerful way of doing it. Yeah.
And also I'm just thinking about something is, I also don't enter a space. Yeah. Okay, maybe outside of my marriage, but I generally don't enter a space. I have to qualify that. I have to qualify this. But I don't enter spaces for permanency. So when you go in, and if I recall when I went into Unilever, it was after quite a few things had happened. On a personal level, I needed somewhere to go because I had a child. My second child was born with special needs. So I needed an environment which had systems and processes, right? Because I knew that I had this other thing that I also needed
to look after. Yes, definitely.
So when I went in, it was very much about what does Unilever need me to do? And when I understood, then I will do that. When I've done that, technically, what's the next thing? Then my family circumstances needed me to relocate for the child's sake. Yeah. But in terms of what I'd come to do, I had to be able to tick off the boxes for the sake of the company, if that makes sense. And this is quite important because if I fast forward to maybe 3 years ago, post-COVID, I had an opportunity to work in the NGO space. Yeah. But even there, I had a specific role, which was permanent, but it was attached to certain tasks, certain achievements. I said, you'll only need me for 3 years. It wasn't about, they said, what happens after 3 years? I said, we'll see after 3 years. But in terms of that particular time, they need me for 3 years in terms of that job. So my leaving isn't going to be because I didn't get the promotion or whatever. It's more about we needed each other for 3 years for whatever reason. I would learn something. I would offer something. After 3 years, let's review. So I was always intentional about what I don't know or what I believe I need to learn. And sometimes I've gone into environments that have been very difficult culturally so that I can learn how to work in a cultural, yes, for no apparent reason. But because I knew that life needs me to have that ability. Not because it's going to be easy. I need to learn it. So yeah, that's why I've never really linked leaving and with, am I happy, am I sad? No, it's never been about that. It's always been about something logical. What do we need? What do we need? You know? And sometimes it's been because staying would mean there'd be an over-reliance on me in the system.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you walk away so that the system can function as a system. I'm only an individual. I'm not a system.
That is powerful, Sane. And you know what I'm finding even profoundly powerful also for me is the fact that outside of your marriage, we are going to qualify that again, you go into spaces knowing very well that you are not there for permanence. And I guess maybe your upbringing, being a PK's child, then comes in because there is a certain role you have to fulfill. And once that is done, you move on. And I think there's a lot that the people that are watching this one can learn from this. To say, when you start looking inwards, what is my role in the context of the bigger ecosystem? And you walk in there knowing very well that you are going in there based on your own definition of what you are supposed to be there.
That's very much it.
That's very much it. Thank you. So then it gets beautiful, obviously. This is where you stop talking about what was lost, and now you start talking about what was found. And I want us to talk about this. So when things finally they clicked to you, that you are no longer going to be looking at what these corporates are doing for you, but you were going to look at what Sane is doing for this corporate. What became clear? And who did you rediscover what did you rediscover about yourself outside of the achieving and the doing?
I think for me, the biggest thing was internal introspection. It was me understanding my strengths and choosing to bring my strengths. Accepting that I can't do everything. So if your role has 10 things to do, what had to happen is that the most important 3 needed to come from my strengths. The others, I understood I may not be the best person for those things. I'm just, because I have these strengths and these ones are maybe average or even weak. And when I got comfortable with, I don't need to have the strengths you have, you know? I need to have my strengths, and together we make a whole. So even in the corporate context, and this was one thing where I was often conflicted, because especially when you get more senior, you're supposed to enjoy doing presentations, you're supposed to enjoy telling people what to do, you're supposed to enjoy all those things, and I'm like, but people must do what they want to do, you know? And so that was always a struggle for me, because I would say I'm not looking for a round person. I'm looking for a person who has a strength in something, and I accept that this person might be brilliant, but doesn't fit the other corporate expectations like presenting skills, whatever it is. you know, and understanding that if that's the case, there are limitations. The same for me. So as you go more senior, although I had been taught how to talk, and there was a time where people wanted to hear what I had to say, like as in I had to talk more. Yeah. As I went up, I realized there's some point where they no longer want to hear your different opinion. And so keep it to yourself would be a good idea. Yeah. And that played with my mind. And because I accepted, okay, I'm not good with, now that I've learned how to speak, I'm not good with now learning to unspeak my truth. You see, when you're a junior and you have a perspective like, oh, it's okay, she's young, she'll see. But now, 20 years later, it's like you feel different and you've told the world that you feel different or you see it differently. Yeah. Maybe you should have kept that to yourself because now you're challenging those that know more. Yeah. Well, they feel challenged, even if you're not challenging them. Yeah. I then realized that I had to now become quieter. But where the challenge was is I had said to myself through my journey that I'm not able to keep quiet indefinitely. And what it meant, what I had to do was learn. I can speak to whomever, share my perspective, not that my perspective is right, but then allow the environment to do what it needs to do. When it does what it needs to do, Sane, if I can't come to terms with that or be at peace with it, I need to choose, do I need this environment in my life? Do I want this environment in my life? So what people would have seen as, many ask me, why are you not a CEO? Why haven't you started your own company? Why haven't you? And I said, because there are things in all of those roles which are going to challenge my values. Yeah. And my values are seeing strengths. And sometimes the strength is not enough. You need to now say to the person, go home. Yeah. That's, I struggle with. So because of that clarity, then those things are not an option for me. Because I need to sleep at night. And with that, I can't sleep at night. So
you need to sleep at night.
Yes.
Sure. What brings you genuine fullness today?
Sorry, what brings me?
Genuine fullness.
Fears today.
Fullness, like full.
Fullness.
Yeah.
Wow. I think today, what brings me fullness is constantly learning. And constantly being in environments that affirm that I am enough.
Yo. How do you find that environment?
You see, many of us don't realize you have to be intentional about that. Sure. Even when it comes to family, there are many things we all choose to do. Now, I'm not your typical, let's say, Zulu wife, is the best way to put it. Agbizwa mina magnomcimbi, you know, to do this and do that, because that's just not me. But I had to become comfortable with what can I bring to those spaces without undermining those who have that ability. Does that make sense? It makes a lot of sense. And be in environments where they accept that you cannot be everything. And I've never aspired to be everything. What society deems it everything. Woman in corporate, woman in Mcimbini chopping, a woman, perfect wife, perfect mother. No, I didn't aspire for that, what people call perfection.
How did you silence all of that? Some of us are too afraid to shut them out so that we can be who we are.
Because I accepted my strengths. Others have strengths. Yeah. And I think my children have been testament to this. One thing I could never understand was being in the corporate space. I was often asked, you travel a lot. What about spending time with your children? And I was like, to do what exactly would I spend time? Wow. And the question, and I asked the question genuinely, and the people said, no, you need to go home, bath your child, whatever. And I said, me going home, bathing a child, feeding them. And I said, I'm impatient. So I'll get home, the child is splashing. That's how children learn. I wonder, why are you splashing when you should just wash and finish and get there and eat everything? Yeah. So I knew I am not the best person to play that role in my children's life. Because I'd wonder, you know. But it's quite interesting. My children being in the environment where mothers drop children off, Mom, are you going to drop us off at school? I said, guys, you don't want to be dropped by me. The car parks, and I want to know why you're not opening the door to get out. You know, you want your, yeah. No, Mom, are you going to fetch us? You want your father to fetch you, because your father will watch you at that hill and wonder, why are you still at the hill? Me, I'm like, he'd phone me straight and say, you know, your child is playing up there. And I'm saying, and you're watching them play. I'm like, so I knew I was not the right person, that I would break the child's spirit, or I would not allow them to learn, because that's how children learn, by being messy. And I'm like, why are you being messy when you can be clean? You know, so I knew that about myself. So if we go back to knowing
Who you are.
your strengths and weaknesses, and I was at peace with the fact that I had weaknesses, and all I did was, how do I find the strength that's actually a strength to offset my weakness and be at peace with it? So that's basically how I've navigated that, is the peace of knowing my weaknesses, of which there are many. That's okay, because others have strengths that do exactly that. And that is okay.
And that is okay. So this is some form of recalibration. I'm seeing it happening. And for us, you just didn't recalibrate privately. You turned that transformation into a vocation, into a way of serving others. Now I want us to focus on that one. Later, Sane now emerges as a consultant, and you are consulting for various organizations. So what does ambition look like for you today? And how is your work a living expression of the woman that you have become?
So when I realized that ambition was not standard societal norm of ambition, when I came to accept that I like to achieve, but I'm actually more driven by watching others achieve, which was an interesting dilemma or dichotomy. I realized that when I'm able to either manage a team or lead a team, and the people in the team become better than me and get promoted, I get very excited. I'm not worried about me. That's when I actually realized that I'm actually more interested in other people's success. So for me, being what I call a servant leader was easier. So I measure my success on how much I can help others deal with what they need to deal with. It gives me satisfaction. It gives me immense joy to be able to say, oh, I helped this business and now they're thriving. Oh, I helped this person and now they are a director, they're a CEO, they're whatever. The fact that I'm nothing there, I'm just floating, is perfectly fine. Yet for many years, I thought I wanted to be that CEO, or does that sort of make sense? And then I realized, no, my sense of purpose, my sense of alignment is when I'm helping others. In as much as society is wondering why you're not helping yourself, which is what I should be doing, yeah, that's actually when I'm happiest. And it's been a strange realization. So, but to get to that space and to maintain that space, I've made sure I'm in an environment that's constantly gets me to check what is my value. Am I still being true to my value? So you can't really get to that point in the normal society environments. And as a result, I engage in different things. I know many people don't think network marketing is anything important, it's a grudge or whatever, but for me it's been a space that's allowed me to build on my strengths and help others build on theirs. It's also, and that is not something corporate gave me. That's not something my home environment gave me. But what it also allowed me to learn is what we knew 20 years ago, or what we even knew last year, is not necessarily what we believe and know now. And that it's okay when you get new information to change your view.
Tell us a little bit, Sane, about what you do.
Okay, so yeah, outside of consulting, which is what I call classical business, I spend a lot of time helping people become what I say, achieve well-being. Financial well-being initially was defined only as corporate success or business success. But now it's about helping people learn how to manage their environment more effectively. So I've realized that a lot of our incongruence, which manifests as mental health incongruence, and I'm saying non-genetic, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming it comes from being in environments where are misaligned with our values, being expected to show up in a way which is not our natural self. Yes. So what I do is, many people come to me when they are already taking some sort of medication, anxiety, antidepressants, whatever they're doing to help them navigate life. And I say to them, have you ever thought of looking at your environment? Medicine is not good indefinitely for all of us. You know, it impacts our livers and all sorts of things. And often the medicine we're given is not working well because of our environment. It's not allowed to do what it needs to do. So I spend a lot of time helping people learn how to be in a good, safe environment for themselves. And also to listen to their bodies. Because your body will tell you a lot of things. Before you get to the point of breakdown, before you get to the point of mental this and that, your body shows you signs. Your body tells you things. And we don't listen. So what I do, because there's such a high increase of, call it lifestyle conditions, I help people learn to listen to their bodies. Because I believe when you can listen to your body, you understand your body, you have better conversations with those who want to help you, be them medicals, nutritionists, whoever wants to help you. But you've got to know why this thing is making you, how this thing's making you feel, which might be different to how it's making the neighbor feel. Yeah, so that's
what you do. That's a powerful space to find yourself in. And I'm hoping that it grows, because a lot of people need that. So Sane, for the person listening in on us, who is in that noisy season right now, what practices and what boundaries and truths are keeping you grounded? And what are you offering them through your work? You've spoken to me right now about you work with people where you help them listen more to their bodies. Just expand a little bit on that one as well. How is that helping them?
Okay, so listening to your body is as simple as this is what you eat most of the time, whatever it is. At some point before it becomes a problem, you felt strange. Okay? So, but you ignored the strangeness because you weren't necessarily sick. You were just uncomfortable and out of sorts. So I say at that point, you should have seen there's something you need to change. Now, listening to oneself, my eldest was born with 1,000 medical allergies in 2000. And the doctor said, your child has to be on medicine for life. And I said, well, that's an interesting concept, but I don't want my child to faint when he goes into an environment or suddenly be ill if he goes to another child's party or whatever it is. How do we fix this? And he said, you can't fix it, but you have to learn to live with it. So through that experience, I said to him, the minute you're not feeling okay, that's a sign of something. It's a sign you need to change something. Whatever it is, maybe the food you're eating, maybe, you know, the way you're sleeping. But through that, we learned how to manage his condition. So he manages a condition which should have medicine 24/7 kind of thing, with no medicine at all. But he knows when his body is saying enough of X or enough of Y. So I think many of us, so if I think of a simple thing, flu. Many of us will feel, oh, I'm getting flu-y, I'm sniffing, I'm whatever. But we change nothing. We wear a jersey, but we don't actually make any changes. But if you're listening, you'll realize that Before I had the sniffles, I was feeling 1, 2, 3. At that point, if I change nothing, then you continue. So I've learned if I don't change anything from how I eat, how infrequently I exercise, I will become ill. So all I do is teach people to listen. And the only way you can teach a person is when you're feeling different, call me. Not when you're feeling sick, when you're feeling different. You see, there's a very, because there will be signs there. And in most people, that narrative of signs is not what's written in the norms of the world. It's very much like pregnancy and childbirth and those things. When you start asking people, doctors, why is this like, oh no, it's normal. Suddenly your unique situation is the norm. You're like, but I didn't read about this, So yeah, so it's basically that.
That's powerful. For me, Sane, when you say listen to your body, a body is a sum total of physical, spiritual, and emotional. And I'm finding this whole thing you say, listen to your body. Your body can manifest its reject of something through illness, or you walk into an environment, now we relate it back to the workplace, where you can feel it in your soul that this is not the right one for me. Yeah. And you are basically saying to people, trust your body and trust what it's telling you. And that's the only way that you will then be able to silence all these other things. And also walking into a space that appreciates your value. Yes. And a place that is able to look into your strength, enhance it, and not focus on the weakness. And also being comfortable enough in understanding that it's okay that you do not have to know everything, as long as you know what your strength is. Capitalize on that so that you can move on and be able to silence all this other noise. That's a powerful way of looking at things, Sane. And I'm so glad that I was able to speak to you so that you can also tell others that are going through whatever noise that they are going through, that the best way to do is to pause and understand your body so that you know what you can move forward with. I have one last final question for you, and this one is my favorite one that I always ask everyone who comes into my podcast. If you could sit down with your 8-year-old self, what would you say to her?
I would say to that child, understand your worth. Ooh. And understand how people experience you. Yeah. And when you understand your worth and understand how people experience you, you will start not getting upset when they question or ask questions about something you think or something you've done. Because you're understanding that they are them and they have a worth, but they're just seeking to understand, not seeking to undermine. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Sure, understand your worth and be comfortable in your difference. Sure. Sane, thank you. I don't want to just thank you for this conversation, but I want to thank you, Sane, as a Black female, for the courage it takes to live out loud the very truth that you are speaking. Because we've seen you live that. We've seen Sane live her value. We've seen Sane embrace her difference and being comfortable in that difference. And I want to thank you, Sane, for choosing yourself loudly enough that others feel permission to do the same. For me, that's not a small thing. For me, that's recalibration of ambition. That's building a legacy. And to everyone who has been listening today, I need you to hear this. I need to hear that somewhere between the deadlines and the expectations, between the performance and the proving, between the life you are living and the life you are quietly longing for, there is a version of you that's waiting. And that is not a lesser version. I want to emphasize that. It's not a lesser version. It's not a smaller version either. It's a truer one. Sane is not asking you to quit. I think I need to make that very clear. She's also not asking you to walk away from your dreams. She's asking you to question them, to hold them up to the light and ask, is this mine? Does this feel like me? Or have I simply been running a race someone else designed? Because here is what I know to be true, Sane. The most radical things you can do in a world that profits, and I need to underline that profits from your restlessness, is to get still enough to hear your own voice. The most courageous thing you can do in a world obsessed with more is to define what enough means to you. And you termed it so nicely. What is my value? And the most powerful thing you can do right now, today, is and in this very moment, is to decide that your life will be written in your terms. Not your mother's terms, not your children's terms, not your industry's terms, not the algorithm's terms, not the highlight reel you have been circulating or curating for the world. Your terms, your value. Because you did not come this far through everything you have carried, through everything you have survived and quietly overcome. You didn't come this far to spend the rest of your life being impressive to people who will never truly see you. You came here to be alive, fully, honestly, unapologetically alive. So today, to those that are listening and those that have heard what you said so very well, let this day be the day, not Monday, not the new year, not when the conditions are perfect. Today. Let today be the day you give yourself permission to want to be different, to live differently, to be the difference. The world does not need another version of you running on empty, chasing a finish line that keeps moving, because that's what corporate does. It moves. It takes more. The world needs you to be grounded, to be clear, and to be free. And for me, that is the ambition worth recalibrating for. Until next time, keep being different. Know your worth, embrace your difference, and move forward to your success. Thank you so much, Sane.